HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition. I'm Andrew Knowles. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news tonight, Prime Minister Perry Christie responding to questions of a potential cabinet shakeup soon. It's a story you'll hear first on the ZNS network. The Prime Minister acknowledged today that he has no difficulty shuffling his cabinet, but that's not something that will happen now. Since taking office more than a year ago, the Prime Minister said he considered a shuffle, but denies any suggestion that an immediate one is imminent. Mr. Christie admits, though, that it is something that may be revisited.
The question comes up about whether or not you shuffle, but that, usually for me, as you approach midterm in a government, as opposed to now, we are so close on so many areas that I really don't want to disrupt ministers who have taken some time to get involved in initiating new policy matters for the country. And, it's difficult to go and disrupt them now because we are on timeline on so many different areas. And
Prime Minister Christie cited a number of instances where cabinet ministers are working to meet deadlines.
The Minister of Housing has taken some time to restructure an approach to provide a very necessary feature of housing. It's been slow in developing. It is now developed, and we're about to begin a course of constructing houses. And so, again, the solid waste site where you always have these fires, we're about to introduce a new paradigm in how that is managed and recycling and another sort of modernized approach to the management of solid waste in the country. And so, look, some interesting things are happening. We're going to continue to discuss them publicly with you. But it really means that for some future time, I need to have specific ministers in specific roles.
Meantime, as Miami-based Cuban protest groups threaten to take their plight to airlines flying to the Bahamas, the country's leader says he's mindful of the economic impact such demonstrations could have on the tourism sector. Prime Minister Christie says he's also aware of some Bahamians who are considering to allegedly retaliate by launching a boycott of their own and by shopping in Fort Lauderdale instead of Miami.
In the aftermath of the last demonstration, Bahamians who lived in Miami were talking themselves about doing counter demonstrations, and that is to impact the economy because we spend hundreds of millions of dollars in Florida, and we don't need to have that kind of thing in the balance here. We are going to ensure that justice is done and justice is seen to be done. That is the only explanation that I could give to the process that is now in progress.
An announcement concerning the report on the Carmichael Road Detention Center was supposed to have been made public last week. However, that hasn't happened yet. While he couldn't say just when the report would be released, Prime Minister Christie expects it to be very soon.
It would seem to me that the Defense Force who conducted the investigation would now, if not complete, just crossing the T's and dotting the I's. In other words, that they should be very near a completion of the process.
From those series of protests started a few weeks ago, one hotel property has been closely monitoring the situation. Brookfield Hospitality's president and managing director George Marcantonio says the company, which owns the Atlantis Resort, records who calls in, who cancels, and comments potential tourists make on the telephone or on social media sites. Mr. Marcantonio has admitted that the protest has not escaped the attention of some potential guests.
We didn't have any mass cancellations, but we did have some feedback, and we did communicate that feedback to the relevant authorities here just for their information.
In other news this evening, Director of Education Lionel Sands confirmed that there will be no school for administrators, teachers, and students of the Uriah McPhee and Stephen Dillett primary schools tomorrow, since work crews are cleaning up after contractors who successfully repaired the air conditioning units at both schools. The two educational facilities were closed for a few days last week due to malfunctioning air conditioning units and other issues. However, Director Sands confirmed that educational officials doesn't want the school population to interact with the debris left over from the repairs. Mr. Sands explained work done at the Stephen Dillett Primary School in an interview with our news team earlier this afternoon.
We had to do a total reducting, and so in order to allow the air to flow in and through the classrooms, that was done over the last 2 days. As you can see, the ceiling tiles are back and the vents are all in. The air conditioning is working perfectly. However, the only challenge we have now is to clean up all of the what was left behind, and so we're satisfied that the work has been done to our satisfaction, actually.
Mr. Sands acknowledged the fact that the teachers and students have missed out on classes so early on in the new school year that he offers this advice to the affected teachers.
We'd encourage teachers and the administrators to use additional time, even if it's time that we have to remunerate teachers for. That's above and beyond the normal time in the evening hours, on weekends. We'd encourage teachers to provide classes, extra classes for the students, and we'll remunerate them for doing those extra classes in order to catch up.
Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Senator the Honorable Allison Maynard Gibson attended the meeting of law ministers and attorneys general of small Commonwealth jurisdictions at Marlborough House in London last week. The meeting took place immediately following the senior officials of law ministries meeting on September 10th and 11th, which occurs every 3 years in London. The theme for the law ministers meeting was enhancing democratic governance and the rule of law in small Commonwealth jurisdictions. The Attorney General also visited Westminster Magistrates Court and met with Bahamian students studying law in the United Kingdom while in London. Shifting over to news from the crime beat now, police arrested a 33-year-old man yesterday for unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor. But that's all the information authorities have released on the matter. However, investigations continue. Two men, ages 18 and 33 years old, spending Sunday in police custody for possession of an unlicensed firearm following a high-speed chase. Police confirmed the incident began around 1 o'clock this morning on East Street in the area of Lily of the Valley Corner when officers spotted a 2005 Silver Kia Sorento with 3 men inside acting suspiciously. The officers attempted to stop the vehicle when the front seat passenger reportedly pointed a weapon and fired at police. Police returned fire and the vehicle sped off, which led to a high-speed chase throughout the streets of New Providence. The pursuit ended when the suspect's vehicle slammed into a wall in the Pinedale area, where officers immediately arrested an 18-year-old suspect. The other 2 men ran from the scene. Police set up a perimeter and later arrested the 33-year-old man in the nearby Ida Street area. They also discovered that the suspect reportedly had a minor gunshot wound to his leg. The injured man was treated and later released from hospital. Investigations continue. When the weekend edition continues, a service of Thanksgiving held this morning to honor a veteran community builder. That story and more coming up.